Big Pharma is losing trillions of dollars from the pharmaceutical drugs that they were creating. Their only way out of their collapsing industry is to drive vaccination everywhere. So imagine all 7.2 billion people, each spending roughly $1,000, right? You're looking at 7 trillion in revenue annually at minimum for Big Pharma, which is actually failing. So that's what this is all about.
This is Christian Gomez with the New American Magazine, and on the show again, we have Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, who has 4 degrees from MIT and a PhD in biological engineering. Dr. Shiva, welcome again to the show. We're glad to have you.
Great to be here, Christian. Hope you're well.
So let's get to the heart of the matter first before we get to some of the other questions I have for you. Long-term solutions for the coronavirus. What would you say should be everyone's focus? What should every single American be doing right now to stop this in its tracks?
Well, look, we should move away from this concept of coronavirus, okay? This entire narrative that's been created about coronavirus really is based on fear-mongering, and it doesn't address a fundamental issue, which is immune health. Big Pharma, which is what Fauci or Anthony Fauci really represents, who's really leading this very, very inane health policy, does not address a fundamental issue that if you look at what pharmaceutical drugs, what the pharmaceutical industry has done to people in this country, it's to actually devastate and destroy their immune health. So that's where we need to start. Otherwise, we're going to be running around with chickens with our heads cut off and caught in all this hysteria. The fundamental issue is, do you care about your health? And if that's what people care about versus hysteria, then we have a starting place to have a discourse. So if you care about your health, what is the foundation of your health? Well, it's your immune system. The immune system is the operating system of your health, and it's the operating system of your body. Every other system really operates off of the immune system, okay? So that's where we need to start. Well, if you look at this country, number 1 source of death in the United States is heart disease. Number 2 is cancer. By the way, it's the normal stats. Number 3 is medical errors, close to 440,000 people per year. Interesting enough, the number 4th one is prescription drugs, about another close to 200,000 people. So if you add number 3 and 4, medical errors and prescription drugs, all brought to you by big hospitals and big pharma, that's 640,000 deaths per year. And it's probably much higher. That's being conservative. It's higher than heart disease, which is the number 1 cause. Well, so, and by the way, 1.9 million people get hospitalized from prescription drugs per year from adverse reactions. So I don't see us calling a medical emergency, a state of emergency. We're not quarantining a big pharma from this, but what we have done is to create an unfortunate hysteria using ignorance and fear. Ignorance and fear have always been historically used by those in power. And the ignorance here is people's lack of understanding of the immune system. And the fear is unleashed by Fauci, who has been wanting to do this for a long time because his masters are the deep state, be it here and other countries. He works with the CDC and WHO, and their interests, along with the people like Bill Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, the Zuckerberg Foundation, the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation, as well as the Gates Foundation, has always been to think that they are the non-government, not part of the government that run the world. If you think about it, these are 3 massive foundations who evade taxes by literally putting tax dollars, which they should have paid, into their family foundations and use those foundations to guide policy. And what's the policy? Well, the policy here is they are essentially allies and collude with very, very large entities, part of the deep state, one of them being Big Pharma. And that's what we're looking at play out right in front of us. So if we care about the immune system, Christian, we should talk about the immune system, not about coronavirus, because if you don't address the immune system, we're going to get lost in a bunch of weeds. So how do you help the immune system? And what is the immune system? Well, the immune system is the core operating system of your body, and the immune system functions when all its subsystems are working properly. And in order for those subsystems to work properly, you have to have proper nutrients in your body. There is a small genetic component, but fundamentally it's the nutrients that you consume into your body and what's around you. Okay? Clean air, clean water, clean food. That's where we want to start. Now, why is that important? Because your immune system is a complex system, of the innate, the adaptive, interferons, your microbiome, etc. That system, number 1, needs proper nutrients. So, let's start with that, right? So what does that look like? Now, there's many things, but if you take the 80-20 rule, given in a crisis like this, well, first of all, you want to make sure you're getting enough vitamin D, okay? Well, what is vitamin D? Vitamin D in many ways is like a musket, okay? And when vitamin D is consumed by your body actually takes that vitamin D and produces a chemical. By the way, what I'm going to share with you now, you're going to know probably more than most, unfortunately, medical doctors who are victims of a horrible big pharma medical education system. That produces a chemical called cathalicedins, okay? These cathalicedins are bullets which really tear apart and disrupt the membrane of fungi, of bacteria, of parasites, as well as viruses. Okay? So that's where we want to start at. So vitamin D, which comes from the sun, UVB radiation, and if you're not getting it from there, you need the fatty foods, the fatty fish, particularly the salmons, the sardines, those kinds of things. Or you have to take the supplement, particularly D3, cholecalciferol. Now, everything I'm saying here has been very well researched in the literature. There's close to 100,000 pieces of literature in PubMed, over 1,000 systematic reviews, and in particular, 9 systematic reviews done showing the benefits of vitamin D to acute respiratory infection. In fact, the latest one came out about 2 years ago. So vitamin D, it's not even in the discourse, because if you consume proper amounts of vitamin D, and you need more based on your stress levels and where you're at, you basically juice up your immune system to have the musket and the bullets to go after these viruses. So that's
of all the sources of vitamin D that you mentioned, the fatty foods, the fish in particularly, the supplements, and from the sunlight, how would you rank in order the best sources for vitamin D for someone to get out there? I mean, for example, when you go to the pharmacy, sometimes in the supermarkets, you see a lot of low-grade, cheap vitamin D supplements. Should people avoid those, or should they go for some raw organic vitamin Ds? What are your recommendations on those?
Yeah, so look, first of all, we are, over, if you believe in natural design or evolution, our bodies were tuned to get stuff from the sun, right? Which is UVB radiation. Now, obviously, many cultures, like for example, the northern cultures, people used to eat the fatty sardines, right? The fatty tunas, or the fatty salmon, right? These are fatty fish, which also support it. But ideally, you want to get it from food. Now, if you can't get it from food when you're quarantined, okay, for example, or you're living in the winter months, then you go for D as in David 3, not D2. D3 is the most available form of vitamin D that your body can easily convert down those pathways. Now, obviously, I'm not going to make recommendations here. People should go do their own research. There's reputable firms and unreputable firms. It's very easy to find those now on the internet. We're beyond the age of consumer reports. So, but D3 is the right form that you get. Ideally, if you can get out in the sun, that'd be awesome.
Now, you recently wrote a letter to the president in which you mentioned a 4-step solution to get us out of this made-up crisis that we're in right now with the economy being shut down as a result of the so-called coronavirus. Can you tell us a little bit about those 4 steps and how they work?
Yeah, it's actually 3 steps, 4 groups. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3. Look, first of all, the modern science of medicine says we need to move to what's called personalized and precision medicine. What that means is that one size does not fit all, which is what Fauci is trying to do. Okay, everyone should be quarantined. Everyone, when he wants to get his vaccine, will be, given that. It's one size doesn't fit all, particularly from a public health standpoint right now, because it's going to destroy the economy. And if you want to look at it that way, what do I mean by that? Well, step 1, what we need to do is identify the different groups. Now, I proposed 4 groups to the president. One group is those people who have, let's say, COVID-19, okay? Group 1. Group 2 is those people who have it, or even in critical conditions. They may even have the flu right now, okay? Which are taking up the resources of a hospital. The third group is the people who are immunocompromised, people with different types of, immunosuppressive diseases like quote unquote AIDS, or you take something like they're taking monoclonal antibodies, right? Or they have lupus, they have, autoimmune disorders. That's group 3. And the fourth group is healthy people who don't really fall into group 1, 2, or 3, okay? Step 1. Step 2 is for each of those groups, what I've proposed is, from an engineering approach, you go for the, get the biggest bang for the buck. So the 4 really tools that we want to use here are vitamin D, vitamin A, iodine / iodide, you want both of those components, and vitamin C. Now there's many things we could offer, but these are like the basics. These are like big foundation blocks we start with here, and people can do their own research on the internet, but these 4 building blocks, I've proposed at different levels to those 4 groups. So for example, in group 1, people who have COVID-19 or in critical condition, particularly the first group, 400,000 IUs of vitamin A for 2 days, and then also for 50,000 IUs of vitamin D for 2 days only. Now, by the way, those dosages, the former vitamin A was, has been used for many years for kids. Okay, so this is a pediatric dosage. You're not giving it long-term, but short dosage. The second group, and in addition to the people in critical care, you can layer in IV vitamin C, 100 grams, over a day. By the way, that too has been widely used in ICUs in all types of critical conditions. For the healthy people, children and adults, I propose a differential amount for this. By the way, all of these are nutrients that people should be taking, and in the ideal situation, they would go get a vitamin A and D test to make sure their levels are in good shape. And then the third part of this program was to essentially get people back to work. The people who are healthy, you have your shielding around you, go back to work. The people who are not, let's say the immunocompromised, okay, let's get their levels back up, vitamin D and A, then they can go back and they should probably be on these maintenance doses. And the people who are critical and, in serious condition, until they're healed and recovered, those are the people, quote unquote, we should quarantine.
So long-term, more Americans should be taking the vitamins and nutrients that they should be taking on a daily basis, but aren't, basically. So more vitamin D, more vitamin A. But what about those individuals who may be suffering from a malabsorption of vitamins as a result of gluten damage because of celiac disease or other related diseases?
Well, look, let's go back to the core, okay? Your immune system is your operating system. Your immune system functions at a high level by 2 major subsystems functioning well. Your thyroid, which is able to convert, the dark green leafy vegetables and fruits, carotenoids, into vitamin A. And why is vitamin A important? Because it protects the outer cells of your body. The cytokeratins are produced there. And in order for that to occur, you need to have proper thyroid function. So people should, for example, have their TSH levels tested. When it comes to absorption of food, that comes down to ensuring most people in this country don't have enough hydrochloric acid. It's when people say someone has a lot of acidity, it's more than likely, it's going to sound contradictory, that they don't have enough hydrochloric acid. And for those people who have malabsorption, you need to make sure they have proper HCl. And one simple way to go test that is check their mean corpuscular volume, MCV. It's a very simple test, MCV test, and their TSH test for the thyroid. These 2 things are very simple tests people can do, because a lot of the malabsorption takes place because digestion is not taking place properly. So vitamin D and A, the iodine and the iodine, and then if people want to layer in, they could look at adding hydrochloric acid, which I didn't put into this because now you're looking at sort of the other types of subcases.
Now, in addition, you've mentioned Dr. Fauci. Now, of course, many in the media are looking to Dr. Fauci as a so-called expert with what's going on with the so-called pandemic, but they're also looking to the World Health Organization as well. What are your thoughts about the WHO? Can it save us from what's going on? Should we take their advice?
Well, this is like asking the fox who's watching the hen house what to do, That's what this is really about. The WHO and Fauci and the CDC have no interest in people's health. They are essentially run by Big Pharma. They pay homage to Big Pharma, all 3 of those entities. And in fact, there's massive amounts of corruption. And this is not just words. One simply needs to look at the CDC, and the directors on the CDC, for example, come up with guidelines. They rotate in and out of pharma. One simply needs to go look at the WHO, and people like the guy who heads up the WHO and others, for example, they are essentially collaborate very closely with the International Federation of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers. Them and the WHO were very involved in the development of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 3, which got given the stamp of approval by the UN in 2015, which basically lays out this big utopia. And this is
Agenda 21, Agenda 2030.
Yeah, this is part of that, but it's really the Sustainable Development Goals. Yeah, and those things are really driven by pharma, and I'll tell you why. Pharma has had a huge history of using fake news media, using fake scientists like Fauci to assert, and through fear, by and large. Fauci, by the way, this is his second rodeo, or at least his second rodeo. He pulled off the same stunt with lying, using fake science that HIV causes AIDS. It's absolutely nonsense. Many people still believe that. It's a longer discussion we have, but Fauci was central to that quote unquote pandemic fear mongering and promoting a fake science. But essentially, Big Pharma uses these entities always to create some big, watch the pharmaceutical ads, right? They're like, your life is going to be great, and you need to take this. Your life is going to be great. This is just done on a grander scale, right? We're going to have global utopia. And as a part of that, the IA 2030 says that every citizen, no one left behind, quote unquote, should be immunized, vaccinated. That's what this is all about. Big Pharma is losing trillions of dollars from the pharmaceutical drugs that they were creating. Their only way out of their collapsing industry is to drive vaccination everywhere. So imagine all 7.2 billion people, each spending roughly $1,000, right? You're looking at 7 trillion in revenue annually at minimum for Big Pharma, which is actually failing. So that's what this is all about. And if we keep the eye on the ball here and really focus on this, and by the way, the New York Times and all these very, very awful, media companies at one point, they had some value, but today they're, young little toddlers are running it, who basically they give awards to. A bunch of, frankly, uneducated, vulnerable idiots run it, quote unquote. So you have this phenomenon that's taking place. It's easy to manipulate people with fake science, and then the newspapers who claim they're journalists just cut and copy what the fake scientists say. So you have a dynamics of media, which is fake science owned by academics who are, by the way, as I've said many, many times, they're the oldest profession in the world, essentially feed a bunch of very, very stupid fake media journalists.
And of course, the big pharma companies, they don't control vitamin D like they control the medicines that they have patented.
Pennies. That's why no one's talking about it. And that's why Fauci's even not recommending it. Because the reality is what we always want to do with human beings is we want to disintermediate their access to things that we already have. It's not about you going direct to something, whether it be where does innovation come from, where do you get your food, and where you get, we have to disintermediate the sun. That's what we're doing. We have to disintermediate eating fruits and vegetables. In fact, what we've done is we poison our fruits and vegetables. We tell people to stay indoors. We've created this environment, and we've created, the United States has the highest infant mortality rate in the Western world, the lowest longevity rate in the Western world. That's what Fauci has created. What has he done over 40 to 50 years of his career? That's what he's created. So
dependency on big pharma and dependency on big government as his solution.
Dependency on big government. So if people believe in evolution, there's going to be a lot of more and more people who don't wake up. They're going to be more and more immunocompromised, more and more unhealthy, which pharma loves. So on the one hand, you make people unhealthy, and then the other hand, big pharma is going to deliver you their solution to reach you to this utopia. That's what this is about. What's playing out right before our eyes is the massive, massive execution of a well-planned out strategy by big pharma, big banks, and the deep state. That's what's taking place.
Thank you so much. Take care. God bless you, and best of luck with all your endeavors.